So Marcia, if you don't mind, sure, we'll start with yourself.
Cool. So my name is Marcia Rumsey, and my film is called The Hunt Sabs. So it's a documentary following a group of hunt saboteurs, who are people who sort of spend their weekends out in the countryside and trying to sabotage illegal fox hunts that are going on. And it was my final project for uni, which I just finished this year.
And did you finish it pre-lockdown in terms of the film shoot, or did you end up challenged by doing it in lockdown?
Luckily for me, because I was at uni in Coventry and I filmed back at home, so I filmed it all over Christmas. So I just managed to film before lockdown and then was editing during lockdown, which was fine. But other people weren't so lucky.
Yes, I know. Well, at least you probably had more time in your hands for the edit than you probably would have had.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well done on getting shortlisted. And for this particular topic and theme, was it something you just were really feel strongly about, or what sort of came about in terms of choosing the actual theme of it?
Yeah, so there's a few sort of different reasons. Like when I'm making documentaries, I'm really interested in sort of these like groups of people that not many of the public sort of know about. Like a lot of people when I spoke about didn't know who they were. And animal rights is something that was close to my heart. And in fact, both my parents were hunt sabs back in the 80s and stuff. So it's a matter quite close to heart.
Brilliant. So it's actually built into you then. Brilliant. Well, that's great. It's always fantastic, obviously, to make a film and explore a topic that you are completely passionate about and that means something to you. So we're glad to be able to give you a platform to show the film. And well done. I'm always so fascinated with documentary films in particular because, you know, yes, you do love the sort of, fantasy world films and all the rest, but I think you can really get your teeth stuck into documentary. Like, it goes for everybody's film here. Like, I just think docs are just such an enlightening form, an enlightening genre. So thank you. Brilliant. Okay, Ellie. Ellie is actually shortlisted in another category as well, so we already had the pleasure of chatting today, so you know the score, Ellie. So again, just introduce your film to us, please, and a little bit about this one.
Yeah, so my name's Ellie and my film's called Girl Power, and it aims to explore kind of the inequality within the music industry, particularly towards women and how they're not treated equally to men. And this film was actually filmed over lockdown, so it was quite challenging because I had to interview all my guests on Zoom, record it that way, and relied on footage which they'd taken at their concerts to kind of fit in the documentary. So it was a challenge, but I'm really proud of the outcome.
Well, that's brilliant, and I suppose the aesthetics of it is different to what you originally imagined, but obviously Definitely. It's very, very off its time.
Yeah, definitely.
You wouldn't have been possibly doing it all over Zoom then, you know, in advance of March. Brilliant, thank you. And again, like, such an important topic to actually promote and to make more people aware of. And I'm sure there was so much coordinating in that in terms of getting everybody together and the footage as well, which I'm sure was a minefield getting. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Okay, over to Taylor. Hi, Taylor, you're very welcome.
Hi, hello. So my film's called Forgotten Valour. It's an experimental documentary. It's about a chap called Rennie Cope, who was in the Royal Navy. And that he was in the Royal Navy during the Falklands and the Gulf War. And it's about PTSD. And the unfortunate thing is he's suffered with that, obviously from the Falklands War until the present day, but he wasn't actually diagnosed till 2017. So sort of like 35 years of his life where he's been suffering from it, and it just sort of dives into that and how it's affected his life and why he didn't sort of receive help sooner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and how did you come about settling on this story to tell?
I'll give you the short version. So originally it was going to be a sort of fictional piece. I was doing this at university. This was back in 2019, beginning of the year. And I wanted to do like a fictional piece about the Falklands War. But I wanted to interview some people that were actually there. And I went through this charity called Forgotten Veterans UK. Without them, the film wouldn't have happened. But they arranged for me to meet Rene. And I interviewed him for like 3 or 4 hours. And the thing that shocked me the most was it's not what happened to him during the war, because everyone sort of knows about that kind of stuff. We all know war's a horrible thing. It's the way he wasn't able to get help and the way he was sort of shunned away from getting help for the mental condition and how that's affected his life. And I just thought that was a lot more interesting. It's really something I wanted to explore more and just sort of give him like the platform to do that and to help other people from sort of having to go through the same thing.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. So then obviously quite a long process, you know,
Yeah.
coming up to 2 years, I suppose, now when you first maybe had the idea. And what is it then maybe that you would like audiences to think about or to take away from, you know, when they watch your film as part of the showcase?
I think for me, it's all about sort of mental health, and it's not just necessarily about the military aspect of the PTSD. It's just sort of to encourage people to speak up a little bit more, because nobody should sort of have to feel like they're in that position where they can't talk to anybody or they're not able to get help. And I won't spoil the film, but there's a lot of stuff, like heavy stuff in there. And I think if anyone watches that and then they feel like that sort of helps them to get help, I think that's sort of my take from it, I think.
Excellent, thank you. That's brilliant. We look forward to having it in the showcase, and well done again on getting shortlisted. Okay, Taylor, over to Will. Hi, Will, you're very welcome.
Hi, nice to be here.
Good. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, just your film, the name, a little synopsis, and sort of how and why you were inspired to tell this story.
Well, so this film I actually made with Brendan here, and it's a short documentary called The Itchen Comeback, and it follows back in the time of the general election, around about December last year. We went over to a constituency called Southampton Itchen, which at the time was the most marginal constituency in England. It was held by the Conservatives by 31 votes. And we got permission to follow the Labour campaign as they try to defeat them and win the seat back. So it really just covers the 2 weeks leading up to the election and what it was like at that level, like really trying to fight that. I think the reason we wanted to do it is it was coming up to the general election, and me and Brendan both wanted to make a documentary because it was something we'd never actually done before. And we were thinking, we really wanted to make something about the general election because we were getting very angry about everything that was going on, frankly. And we found this. We found that Southampton Itchen was so marginal, and so I got the number of the people in charge of the local Labour Party there, and I just said, could we come and talk to you? And yeah, it all went from there, really.
And what challenges did you have then, you know, in terms of your collaboration together? Like, have you worked on films before together, or was this kind of a new endeavor?
Once before we did. We made a short fiction film together a few months earlier, but this was the first time that we'd ever worked together. It was just the two of us, and that was it was difficult, but it was good at the same time. I think. I mean, I don't want to speak on your behalf, Brendan, but no, it was great. Just being it just. I can't make any sense to it. But it was just having the two of us and not having a big film crew, which is what we were used to, and just being able to have that freedom, but also trying to film such a chaotic, sprawling event that's happening across half a city. We were just driving around, trying to film everything we could, everything that was happening. It was chaotic, but it was brilliant.
So Brendan, obviously a lot has happened since you made that documentary in terms of
definitely.
in terms of things that you might feel angry about and that could inspire another documentary. But what is it about documentary, I suppose, that you're drawn to? And obviously you work and have worked well with Will. What is it about the documentary genre, I suppose, maybe to let audiences know, like, why is it a great genre to be passionate about?
Yeah, sure. I really like the genre because I think it tells a lot of stories that wouldn't normally be told. A lot of people have very interesting stories and you don't really see them much in the media or through other forms. And I think it's just really, I think I'm speaking about our documentary, but it's nice to explore like how people can have like this one aim or goal and will do anything they can to get to that goal. And I found that really interesting when making documentaries.
Super. And with the people that you interviewed, what was their reaction then to the final film, or has it not seen the light of day by them?
I think we showed it to a few of the people in the Labour Party, and they really liked it. Yeah, they were just really happy with it. Yeah. Brilliant.
Well, thank you, and again, excellent. Look at such a contemporary issue as well, and have that documented. So thank you, brilliant. So last but not least, thank you for joining us. Owen, how are you?
I'm good, cheers. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Good. Well, again, like everybody else, congratulations on getting shortlisted in this category. And yeah, we really just want to embrace this online platform because the festival is different this year. So yeah, over to you to tell us a little bit about your film.
Thank you. Yeah, so my film is it's called To My Younger Self, and it's basically a short experimental documentary about solitary confinement in young offenders institutions. And so it's taken from a real testimony, a real person that we worked with who experienced this many years ago, well, not so many, and really looks at kind of the trauma that is caused by putting young people from the ages of 14 to 18 in solitary confinement, or segregating them from the prison population, and the mental and emotional trauma that creates, and how that's kind of dealt with in later life. And this was just something that was really important to me to raise awareness of, because I think it's something that in the United Kingdom we've got a little bit of a not necessarily a culture of deniability, but I just think there's a general kind of lack of awareness of this. And actually, if you look at the United States, whilst their prison system and their criminal justice system is incredibly broken and incredibly flawed, you do have a lot of artists creating incredible work about this and raising awareness. Ava DuVernay obviously is the prime example, but there's a lot of really kind of fantastic work about the injustices of the criminal justice system over there, and that's something that I'm really keen to bring over here as well, and highlight over here in the UK. Great.
And did you film it all at the end of last year, so it wasn't in the middle of lockdown or anything?
Yeah, we got it pretty much just on time. So we wrapped only probably about a month actually before lockdown started. But obviously it did mean that most of our post was done in lockdown, from most of the edit all the way through to the grade and the mix and everything. So it did kind of draw out the process a little bit more than was originally expected. But we were lucky that we didn't have to film anything in lockdown.
And actually, just thinking about it, with lockdown and the whole reality of self-isolation, like, did that make you think even more about obviously what the documentary covered? Because before lockdown, loads of people already did experience self-isolation in so many forms, whether it be in prison settings or people who live by themselves all the time and that are very not connected. So do you feel that sort of, I suppose, made you think even more about those correlations?
Yeah, I think to an extent, I think going through that experience of obviously not being able to leave the house, particularly for the first few weeks. And I actually recently just got back from being abroad. So I'm currently in a 2-week quarantine where I'm not allowed to go out at all. No 30-minute exercise or nothing. So yeah, so it's definitely kind of made me think about that, but at the same time, it's made me really aware of the privilege that I have of first of all having a flat, which is quite nice and that is comfortable, and that is spacious enough, and and the privilege that I think a lot of other people have to not be in a much worse situation where you're having to isolate.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And I just want to ask you as well, just anyone who wants to answer, what sort of reaction, I suppose, overall are you hoping for each film? Like, are you parked with the films now that they've been made? Do you want to explore that same topic further, or is it a case of just moving on to the next story that you want to tell?
I think, yeah, for me, this film really is kind of a jumping off point for me, because it was on as part of the BBC's new creatives scheme, and so it's only just over 3 minutes long. It's not long at all, and obviously there's not that much that you can explore within that time frame, and you're kind of you've got so much of this incredible story that you want to fit in. But for me, it's definitely a jumping off point that allowed me to gain a bit more education, talk to more people about this subject, and look and it kind of experiment with how that can be portrayed through film. But it's definitely something that I want to continue working on, both socially and artistically, in terms of looking at the kind of injustices of young offenders institutions particularly, and how young people in prison are treated.
Brilliant. For example, Marcia, is there sort of a part 2 of your story, or is it something that you sort of feel will evolve naturally to revisit in a year or 2, or do you feel for now that your story is told as such?
Yeah, I definitely really want to revisit it, because I made it at uni. I had a lot of restrictions from uni with like sort of ethical considerations and stuff like that, and the uni doesn't want to upset anyone, so yeah, there was a lot of restrictions with that, and also like the amount of time and stuff like that. I got into trouble with some of the stuff. So yeah, I'd love to go and like film different groups, maybe actually talk to like the hunt, because mine's like quite one-sided. Talk to the hunt, try and get that involved, and yeah, definitely want to explore it more.
Super. I think that's actually what's really brilliant about documentaries as well, that it kind of is always an unfinished story in that way. There's always other layers to explore, and even following other people's experiences off the same topic or the same issue. Well, hopefully you will all be able to watch each other's films within your category, obviously when it is being shown at Cinemagic, and this was an opportunity to find out a little bit about the filmmaker, so that when you are seeing those films, you know a little bit of the background and how the films came to be, and we'll be doing everything we can to promote the film, and do use Cinemagic's festival screening as a platform for you to communicate about the film and to reach new audiences as well, because obviously we can do that in this virtual platform, that if we were screening it in the cinema for a closed audience of 100 people, that's all that could get to see it. So the fact that these are going to be shown as part of the showcase over an extended period of time, hopefully it just opens up even more viewers for your film.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.